Good afternoon, everyone. And my name is Jennifer Blagoji, and I'm the External Relations Manager for the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of our Executive Director, Ajoba Chiama, I would like to welcome you all to this episode of our virtual networking series. This virtual networking series was launched when the COVID pandemic hit us, to offer member companies the opportunity to continue to network, share expertise, showcase their brand credentials, as well as thrive in spite of the challenges COVID-19 has presented to companies. As a chamber, we continue to work very hard to build strong networks for and with our member companies, as well as connect businesses and create more opportunities for growth. We continue to encourage member companies to reach out to us and to participate in all our activities, and for any other information they may require during these times. We know it's a difficult time for all companies, and we encourage you to reach out to us. In this episode of our virtual networking series, we have Lancaster University, Ghana, the Provost, Professor Malcolm Peter McIver, and we will be discussing the future of education in the new normal and what it means to the industry. After his presentation, we will open the floor for the Q&A session. We invite participants to ask all their questions during this time. You can either click on the raise hand button or put your questions in the chat space, and I'll read them out for answers. After the Q&A session, at the very tail of the event, we invite you all to our after party with the disc jockey maestro himself, DJ Black. DJ Black is a multiple award-winning DJ and radio personality who works for Joy FM and Hits FM. So we hope you all enjoy that session as well. Before I invite Professor McIver to give his presentation, I'd like to just touch on his profile. So Professor Malcolm McIver was recently appointed as the new Provost of Lancaster University, Ghana, with overall responsibility for the academic management and strategic development of the institution. He wields a BA in education from the University of Manchester, an MA in medical ethics from the University of Northampton, and a PhD in education from the University of Cambridge, all in the UK. Professor McIver commenced his career in education as a senior lecturer at Homerton College of Health Studies in Cambridge, following a successful career in the field of healthcare, where he rose to the position of general manager of a large specialist hospital in the UK. He has held a number of senior academic positions for more than 10 years at several UK universities, and as visiting professor to a number of international institutions, including the University of Washington. At this juncture, I would leave the floor to Professor McIver to give his presentation, and we entreat you all to participate, and also we hope we have fruitful discussions afterwards. Thank you all for joining in. Over to you, Professor McIver. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. And I wasn't quite expecting my career to be laid out in so much detail. Right. It's more than 30 years in education, and prior to that, I worked in healthcare. So thank you very much for the introduction, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Okay, today's presentation is on the future for education in the new normal and what that means to industry. Now, before I start, if I may, I need to confess, although it wasn't covered in my introduction by Jennifer, I'm not an economist, nor am I an industrialist. So please bear with me and please be sympathetic if my explanations and analysis are a little bit simplistic in terms of economies. And whilst I do have a background in healthcare, I'm not an epidemiologist either. So I'm not qualified to speak authoritatively on COVID-19. But I am an educationalist, and I have spent over 30 years working in education, much of it in the realm of vocational education. And I passionately believe that education is the answer to most, if not all, problems, but only if that is good education. Education can solve many problems, but it has to be relevant and it has to be appropriate. So bear with me as we go through this presentation. Remember, I'm an educationalist, and as we go through it, you'll see that my passion will rise as we talk more and more about education. So what I'd like to do, if I may, is start off, rather than looking forward to the future, is start off by looking at the relatively recent past. And if we think about education in relation to COVID-19, 8 months ago, a pandemic swept the world. COVID-19 made its presence known to all of us. And in the educational sector, we were one of the first industries to experience lockdown. Across the world, many governments straight away closed schools, colleges, and universities. So universities have been closed for quite some time around the world. In Ghana, they've been closed since March, but I do know that in parts of Southeast Asia, they've been closed since February. So once the universities were closed, we faced an issue, we faced a problem. Students' education was still dependent upon us, but the universities were closed. Universities were where education had taken place for over 1,000 years. Jennifer, in her introduction, mentioned that I studied at Cambridge, and the college I studied at in Cambridge is over 800 years old. So the notion of going into colleges, the notion of going into buildings to study is very well established. And once the universities were closed, we had a problem. So what did we do? Everybody went online. And what we found was that lecturers who'd spent their entire career standing in classrooms, lecturing to an audience of students, suddenly found themselves sitting in front of laptops and sitting in front of cameras. All of the problems that bad teachers had experienced in the classroom and bad students had experienced in the classroom simply were transferred to people's bedrooms, to people's dining rooms, to the kitchen, as lectures were delivered online. Similarly, in terms of industry, and I apologize for using this as an umbrella term, but similarly in terms of industry, COVID-19 arrived, and what happened was whole countries went into isolation. Workforces were moved out of the workplace and told to stay at home. And as a result of that, industry shut down. Now, some industries fared better than others. Manufacturing and the leisure industry were particularly badly hit. It's very difficult to go to a factory and to manufacture or to open a restaurant when the entire population has been told to remain at home. Some industries started to suffer initially, but then found a way forward. Retail industry, for example, they started to have problems at the beginning, but found a solution. And in fact, in many sectors of the retail industry, they're doing better now than they were pre-COVID-19. And of course, the IT industry and the financial industry, well, nothing seems to stop them. But again, just as in education, what happened was almost everyone found themselves working from home. And again, people who had never before used a laptop or people who'd never before engaged in a video conversation suddenly found themselves having to have these video conversations and manage the issues in their home setting. It seemed as though, whilst COVID-19 was a major issue, that we did have a savior. People who'd never heard of Zoom 8 months ago were now using it every day. Teams, WhatsApp, Skype became an everyday part of our working life. And my wife will not forgive me for saying this, but even my wife, who previously had difficulty sending a WhatsApp message, found herself hosting prayer meetings on Zoom. So the whole world moved online, and it seemed as though we had a solution to COVID-19. It may be keeping us out of the office, it may be keeping us out of the classroom, it may be keeping us out of the factory, but it wasn't stopping industry. And certainly, if you look at the evidence, industry seemed to progress, it seemed to continue. However, analysis of what was happening seems to suggest that there are problems ahead. If we look at the report from the World Economic Forum, they produced a paper recently based on the perceptions of 350 of the world's top risk analysts. They looked at the situation and they identified that even though people were getting back to the new normal in terms of work, they were using Zoom, Skype, etc. There were still concerns and there were still dangers ahead. One of the concerns they identified was economic shifts. And the danger was that risks could emerge from these structural changes. Under COVID-19, under the use of working from home and new platforms, new economic models were developing. And those new economic models, as with all new models, posed a risk. Some of them would be less sustainable than others. Similarly, in terms of support packages, in terms of recovery stimulus, there was a danger that those recovery packages might stall. And if they stalled, then economies could collapse. One of the other things that caused them concern was social anxiety. There is nothing more likely to result in social unrest than fear and uncertainty. And COVID-19 created fear and uncertainty in bucket loads. So there was always the danger that with a decline in the economy and the social unrest, this would form a cycle that would have a greater impact on industry. And then finally, they identified technology dependence. As I mentioned earlier on, people who'd never used a laptop before, people who'd never done a video conference before, suddenly found themselves having to adapt to the technology and to use it on a daily basis. And one of the risks they identified was that as people and as institutions and as industry made this sudden and abrupt transition towards digital technology and had to adopt platforms and technology that they weren't familiar with, that in itself could jeopardize economies. In fact, when they looked ahead, they identified a number of major concerns. They were concerned, 65% of them felt that there was a danger of a prolonged recession. 56%, almost 57%, felt that there would be a surge in bankruptcies, failure of industry, high levels of structural unemployment, and even tighter restrictions on cross-border movement were all issues that they considered we might have to face in the future as a result of COVID-19. So whilst the early analysis seemed to show that the adoption of digital technology provided us with a workaround solution in terms of COVID-19, the long-term forecast suggested that there were still issues ahead, that industry faced problems and that digital technology alone might not be the solution to that. But what was the big takeaway from all of this? In those first few months of COVID-19, people started to believe that we had found a solution. The solution was digital technology. We saw it constantly. Being resilient wasn't enough. Get digital technology now. The answer is digital transformation, even though we did not know exactly what the question was. And there is also quite an abundance of evidence to indicate that those companies that invested in digital transformation before COVID-19 hit were more able to pivot and to transition after COVID-19. So on the evidence of it, digital solutions were the way forward. And as a result of that, many commentators started to talk about the need for reliable technology moving forward, the need for staff trained to use that technology, and for restructuring in the workplace. It wasn't enough to simply have the technology and to have the staff that could use the technology. We had started to learn new ways of working, and the suggestion was that as we move forward, we needed to restructure the workplace and make it more flexible to reflect these new ways of working. And indeed, working from home was going to become part of the new norm. In fact, a study published only last week indicates that more than 20% of employees who didn't work at home from before have indicated post-COVID-19 that they will continue to work from home. So employers and employees are increasingly adopting this notion that the office is not the only workplace. So again, it would appear that there was a solution in terms of COVID-19. Flexible working environments, working from home, and of course, digital platforms. However, in recent weeks, people have now started to question that. There's long been a focus on the importance of digital literacy in the future workforce. However, it is even more prevalent now than it was before, and it's important that other skills are also taught in order to equip the workforce of the future. In a report recently published by NCFE, they identified 4 skills in addition to digital literacy. The skills they identified were adaptability. The way in which a business operates will change. That is the nature of the business. No business stays the same and survives. So whether it's COVID-19, whether it's economic downturns, whether it's a change in market trends, those businesses that survive and prosper have to adapt. And those businesses that are able to adapt have employees who are flexible enough to adapt. Equally, for a business to be able to change, they need people who are creative. It's very difficult to adapt and to change if you haven't got a creative solution. You need to have an alternative direction to go in. And sometimes that alternative direction needs to be something radical, something totally outside of the box. And in order to bring about change, the NCFE argued that leadership was essential. Change inevitably requires people who can inspire their teams. Change can be quite anxiety-provoking. It can be quite distressing. So it's important that change is led by inspirational leaders. And the 4th thing that the NCFE identified was emotional intelligence. It's important in those times of uncertainty that people have the ability to understand and to read the emotions of those around them. If you don't read the emotions of the people in your organization, if you cannot see how they feel and what they're thinking, then you are in danger of pushing ahead in a direction that they will not follow. So the NCFE, as well as digital literacy, identified all of these things that were also equally important in terms of moving forward. Deloitte recently issued a report that not only echoes that, but also identified some of the problems of adopting a purely digital solution. In their report, they state, in those areas where the technology has been available, one of the biggest barriers was the difficulty of building models to integrate humans with those technologies. If you are going to bring digital technology, new platforms into your workplace, it's important that the workforce can be integrated into that. Digital technology without humans is less effective. Similarly, in a second report, Deloitte talked about staff development. And in the report, they state, as they stage the return to work, organizations should consider how to encourage and offer opportunities for workers to continue to grow and adapt based on their potential rather than solely on their existing skills or certifications. One of the things that COVID-19 highlighted was that many people in institutions and organizations worked within silos. In other words, they knew exactly what their job was, but they didn't know what anybody else's job was. They didn't know what other people in the factory or the company were doing. In many instances, they didn't even know what the people in the office next door were doing. And it goes beyond that. One of the things that Deloitte discovered was that quite often, people didn't even know what they were doing. They knew how to do it, they knew when to do it, but they didn't quite see how what they were doing fitted into the overall picture. And they didn't quite know how their company worked. So what Deloitte argue is that now is not the time to pull back on staff development. And many companies are looking at consolidating their financial situation. They're looking at cutting back on expenditure, and understandably so. But if we are to move forward, then it's essential that the staff are developed and prepared to face the future. And what Deloitte argue is that those skills that NCFE identified must be invested in now. So as we look to the future, some of the most important skills that employers will be looking for will be creativity, communication, collaboration, alongside things like empathy and emotional intelligence. And that's not just Deloitte, that also comes from the World Economic Forum. So the skills: resilience, flexibility, adaptability, emotional intelligence, continuous learning, entrepreneurial skills, creativity, and critical thinking. Easy. Everybody has them. Well, no, sadly, not everybody has them. In fact, very few people have them. But the good news is that most people can acquire them. So, where do we get these skills? Where do we find all of these wonderful skills that are going to take us forward into the future? Believe it or not, and I'm sure you're not surprised, I believe the answer is education. I believe good education can prepare the workforce of the future, a workforce that is able to overcome the existing problems, but also future problems. Because whilst COVID-19 may be a once in a century event, there are other events that disrupt economies. And education is the way to ensure that your industry can overcome those disruptions. I said right at the very beginning that I believe passionately in education, and that education can solve most, if not all, problems, but only if that education is relevant, only if that education is appropriate. Sadly, for too long, education hasn't always been relevant. And again, I said earlier on that I attended a college that was over 800 years old. There are universities in this world that are over 1,000 years old. And the sad truth is that for many institutions, the way in which they teach now, the way in which they educate now, hasn't changed in hundreds of years. It is still the same basic educational model. The traditional educational model is teacher-centered. In other words, the teacher is the font of all knowledge. He or she will stand at the front of the classroom and will share their knowledge with the students. As a consequence of that, the role of the student is passive. And I'm sure we have all experienced sitting in rows in classrooms where we simply had to write down everything that the teacher told us. This is because the traditional system of education is knowledge-based. It's about acquiring knowledge. It's about learning facts and figures. It isn't about understanding. So because it's just about knowledge, it's possible for students to learn it by rote. And again, I am sure we have all experienced that. There have been occasions in my past when I have learned things by rote. And I mentioned earlier on that I have a background in health. And as a young student, I had to learn the 12 cranial nerves. And one of the ways I learned the 12 cranial nerves was by a ditty that goes, "On old Olympic towering top, a Finn and German ventured a hope." Now I remember that, and I learned it 40 years ago. But for the life of me, I cannot remember what the 12 cranial nerves are. And I'm sure you all have similar experiences. And because it's knowledge-based, and because that knowledge is coming directly from the lecturer, it's classroom-based. And invariably, this means that learning takes place Monday to Friday between the hours of 9 o'clock and 4 p.m. And when we assess students using the traditional model, because all they've got to do is acquire knowledge, effectively, what we're doing is assessing memory. And again, I have memories of sitting and cramming for exams, and I'm sure many of you today have memories of doing that. And finally, learning occurs at a fixed point in time. In other words, it isn't continuous. Quite often in the past, what has happened when you have completed a program of study, you've closed your books, you may even have burnt them in some occasions, and you've walked away from the institution because that has been the end of a chapter in your life. Your learning has occurred. You have gone to university between the ages of 18 and 21, and you have now finished. And that is the traditional model. And it is for the duration of the course and for the duration of the course only. Learning stops. I was going to say on the day you graduate, but in many instances, learning stops the day of your final exams. But there's an alternative. A first century model of learning is better suited to addressing the issues of COVID-19, is better suited to moving forward in the new normal. So what does 21st century learning look like? Well, 21st century education, rather than being teacher-centered, is student-focused. The purpose of education is not for professors to demonstrate how clever they are, but the purpose of education is to meet the learning needs of students. So education should be student-focused. And rather than being passive, just absorbing all of the knowledge from your lecturer, it's a partnership. This is the students' learning. They need to take ownership of their learning. And one of the best ways to ensure that is that they become a partner in that learning process. They have to be proactive. And certainly in the beginning of the partnership, during the first year maybe of their study, the teacher is the senior partner. But as they move through the program, there is no reason why the student shouldn't become the senior partner. After all, the student knows what works best for them. The student knows how well they learn using different techniques. The student knows what they want to learn. And it should be application-based. Rather than it simply being about learning facts and figures, it should be about knowledge that can be applied. Knowledge that cannot be applied is pointless. If you cannot take that knowledge and use it in the real world, then what is the point of having that knowledge unless it's to excel in quizzes and challenges? And rather than it being rote learning, it should be problem-based learning. Students should be able to take that knowledge and use it to solve real-life problems. And because learning should be relevant, there's no reason why it should only occur in a classroom. Academics and educationists talk about something that's known as an authentic curriculum. And what an authentic curriculum is a curriculum that relates to the real world. So if you are teaching people about, for example, accounting and finance, then quite often the best place to learn about accounting and finance is actually in the workplace, not necessarily in a classroom. The same principle applies in medicine. You wouldn't for 1 minute think about teaching potential doctors simply in a classroom and never going anywhere near a patient. Well, an authentic curriculum argues that learning takes place in those areas where the learning is going to be applied. And assessment. Assessment is no longer about sitting and undertaking exams. Assessment is not about knowledge. Assessment is about understanding and application. It's how the student takes that knowledge and uses it to solve real life problems. And because of all of these things, the skills that are learned in 21st century education are lifelong skills. The learning process is continuous, which means they take it beyond the end of their program. The skills that a graduate learns from an institution that delivers 21st century education has a set of skills that will help them and benefit them to grow and develop throughout their working life. So 21st century education leads to all of those things: creativity, leadership, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and adaptability. Now, the good news is that there are institutions that are doing that. The bad news is that this notion of 21st century learning has been around for more than 2 decades, more than 3 decades, but some institutions have been slow to adapt to it. Just like any other walk of life, universities sometimes can be resistant to change. But there are some universities that have made the transition. So in terms of industry, in terms of, and yes, embrace the digital technologies. We are going to need them. They are going to be essential. But don't forget, staff development and staff training is the way forward. You need people who have those skills to utilize the very best of the digital technology. So my advice, continue to invest in staff development, continue to invest in education. That's me pretty much finished for now. So thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Professor McIver. And at this juncture, we will invite questions from the audience. You can either click on the raise hand button and I will let you speak, or you can type your questions into the chat space.
I think my presentation was so soporific, people have fallen asleep.
It's more like you covered everybody's question, so there's none to ask
I think
now.
you're being very kind, Margaret.
I do have a question though.
Sure, please go ahead, Margaret.
So my question is, I want to know how authentic the certificates for online courses are. You know, people are very skeptical about things like this right now because of a lot of scammers out there. So I want to know how authentic these certificates are to reassure the public that they're actually going to get good certificates at the end.
Okay, if I understood your question correctly, there's 2 components to this, and one relates to the validity of the program that people have studied, and the other one relates to the authenticity of the certificate that they've received.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the validity of the program, the same regulatory authorities exist for online programs as they do for classroom face-to-face programs. So students can check very easily with the regulatory authorities in their country or in the country of study whether the institution and the program has been approved by the regulatory authorities.
Mm-hmm.
I also know that even where it is approved, there is still some suspicion of online programs. People still view them as being not quite as good as a face-to-face program.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is that in terms of delivery, quite often an online program is more expensive to deliver, so it's not a cheaper option. It requires a lot more technology. It also requires a lot more work and effort to prepare it. It also depends very much on the quality of the institution. And I'm going to blow my trumpet now. I'm going to promote my institution now. Lancaster University, Ghana, is actually very skilled at online presentations. We have the infrastructure in place, and we've been working towards it before COVID-19 even existed. So there are those institutions that have approved programs, and they have skilled staff to deliver those programs, and it's possible to find out from the regulatory authorities whether they have approval or not. In terms of the certificates themselves, the authenticity of them is, I'm afraid it's like anything these days. Any measure you put in place to ensure the authenticity of a certificate or even a currency or anything will very quickly be copied and faked. But again, the easiest way to check the authenticity of a certificate is to go back to the institution that issued it.
Could I add, if you don't mind? Sorry, everyone. I'm Chris Pilgrim. I'm Malcolm's colleague and the CEO at Lancaster University, Ghana.
All of the hard work's been done.
Yeah, absolutely. But I did think there's one aspect of the Lancaster University Ghana degree that answers your question as well. And that is, it's important for everybody to understand, it's the exact same degree that a student would receive if that student were studying at Lancaster University in the UK. And so, although we're delivering online during this, this very trying COVID period of time, the degree has been, will remain a degree of Lancaster University in the UK. And I would add that Lancaster University in the UK is having to undertake blended learning, including online learning as well. And so all of their academic quality assurance measures and all of the regulatory and QA requirements that they're held to in the UK also extend to the veracity of the degree that you will receive at Lancaster University, Ghana. And so, I just wanted to add that to what Malcolm had said. I think some of the skepticism perhaps around online education is perhaps rooted a bit in not really fully understanding it. And, I want to take this opportunity to assure everyone that, it's the very highest of quality at Lancaster University, Ghana, and we're held to not only local regulatory and accreditation requirements, but global UK accreditation and regulatory requirements.
Thank you, Chris.
I'll shut up now.
Thank you very much for your answer.
Thank you. We have a couple of questions in the chat space. So this is from Leticia Edu Ampoma, and she says, hello, I'm interested in knowing how you ensure quality in 21st century education. Leading universities have been doing it, but some springing up who say they do it with very poor quality. How do you address this? Yeah.
Okay, it's very difficult for us to address other institutions' working practices, but if you are a student who is looking to join a university, then I think one of the things you do is, as I said before, is you check with the regulatory authorities. Every country has a regulatory authority, and they receive approval not simply because they are told that the university is going to do something at a high standard. They have to demonstrate to the regulatory authority that they are delivering at a high standard. So every program, whether it be in Ghana or Nigeria or the UK, or anywhere else for that matter, must demonstrate to the regulatory authorities that they are achieving that standard. As Chris has already mentioned, in the case of Lancaster University, Ghana, we have to demonstrate not only to the Quality Assurance Agency in the UK and to the Office for Students in the UK, we also have to demonstrate it to Lancaster University in the UK, and then we have to demonstrate it to the National Accreditation Board here in Ghana. So you need, if you're looking at universities, you need to look at the accreditation, who has accredited them. And again, if you look at the National Accreditation Board here in Ghana, they will identify which universities have been accredited and which have not. So I hope that answers your question, Letitia.
Yes, I hope so too. We have another one from Prince Akoto to everyone. How likely is the new regime of education online going to affect the regulatory body's position on restrictive policy to certain programs, that is law and pharmacy in Ghana?
Okay, if I've understood this question correctly, the question is asking whether the regulatory bodies are going to change their practices as a result of the
exactly, yeah. I think so too.
Once again, I'm not trying to avoid the question, but it's very difficult for me to comment on the regulatory authorities. I know that from my experience around the world, and I'm speaking very generically now, that regulatory authorities can sometimes be rather slow to make change. But that's only because they're trying to be very thorough in terms of what they do. I really can't comment in terms of how quickly the regulatory authorities in West Africa are going to change. What I do know, however, is that we are in regular contact with people like the GLC, with the NAB, and with a number of other professional bodies across the world. And they are very understanding of the current situation. And they are equally as keen as we are to ensure that students receive a high quality education. And that means that they are open to listening to alternative methods of delivery. And it comes back to Letitia's question to an extent, it is down to the institutions to demonstrate that whichever model of delivery they're going to use, that it is a high quality model and that it meets the learning needs of the students. So to answer Vince's question, I don't know when it's going to happen, but I suspect once the regulatory authorities are comfortable with the level and confident about the quality, they will then start to change their positions.
Okay, so I see something from Letitia again. She says a key element people focus on in university education is where it takes you in the field, that is employability, what you do with it. What evidence do you have that this new type of education, I'm guessing that's online, is equally recognized by employers' industry?
Okay.
Yeah.
Most institutions will gather data on employability, which is exactly what this question is talking about. It's the destination of graduates once they have completed their and moved on from the university. Lancaster University Ghana and Lancaster University UK, we collect that data and we can say with confidence that more than 93% of our students when they graduate are either in full-time employment or have gone on to further full-time education within 6 months of graduation. And again, I think if you're a potential student and you're looking to join an institution, you look at the employability figures. And certainly the evidence indicates with 93% employability that our programs result in people transitioning into the workplace or into further education.
There is another question to that as well. I have from Gautama, and he says, in spite of students having obtained genuine online degrees, there are many firms or organizations that don't give them jobs. So when is that mindset going to change? So that's to Letitia's.
Yeah, I think, okay. I understand exactly where this person is coming from, and because again, I have worked in a number of countries around the world where there is a healthy and sometimes unnecessary suspicion of online qualifications. When this is going to change, if you'd have asked me that question 12 months ago, I'd have said longer than I would like it to be. But I think because of COVID-19, because the whole world is having to change the way in which we do everything, people are beginning to realize that online programs are just as valid as face-to-face delivery. So when it's going to be, I really don't know, but I know it's going to be quicker than it would have been 12 months ago.
Can I just step in here again? And, there's a context, I think, to this conversation as well. I mean, specifically a context for us. And of course, it impacts all other institutions, as Malcolm has said. But all universities have been forced to adapt to online learning during this COVID period. Although, the best estimates are that the impact will last for some time. I think it also needs to be recognized that universities will revert back to somewhat of a normal situation that they faced before. So that is to say that learning will revert back to face-to-face. But what institutions are learning, and the employers will as well, is that there is a different way of doing things and doing it effectively. And so perhaps what COVID has done was really accelerate a trend that has been happening anyway. And that trend is towards more online. And so, you know, perhaps some of the fear that employers have is they don't yet have experience with that. They're going to be forced to have experience with it because they're certainly not going to not employ anyone. They still have demand for employees, and they're going to have to adapt to this this period of coronavirus as well, and you know how it's impacted on education. But I did want to emphasize that, look, we're not an online university. We don't define ourselves as an online university like many universities around the world, including all of the top ranked universities globally. We've had to adapt to COVID, and we will be delivering online out of an interest in protecting and upholding safety of students first. And so, you know, it ties back to what I said earlier. It's perhaps in a bit of a perverse way, what it's done is it's really accelerated experience and thought around online learning. And that will have a lasting impact, there's no question about it. We will get back to somewhat normal, but we will, I think, engage much more in online. And I think industry as well will recognize that and also engage more with institutions that are delivering in a mixed mode.
Right. I think we have another question. We have a few questions in the chat, but I'll call on the Trade Services Manager. She has her hands raised. Sarah, you can go ahead with your question, please.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right. So thank you, Lancaster University, Ghana, for the presentation. I have a different view, or maybe we are talking about the same thing, but I believe that our universities are churning out, you know, graduates for the job market, honestly, and it's choked. And so I believe our universities must begin to start training, you know, students to do something or to venture out on their own, you know, instead of just adding up to the numbers on the job market. How is Lancaster addressing this issue? Because it should be one of the things that can help solve the job issues in Africa.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you want to tell us, Chris, or shall I take it?
Well, I mean, we can tag team it, but you know, interestingly enough, I'm just actually preparing a graduation speech, and I'm touching on some of these themes, and so just bear with me for a second, and if I digress too much, pull me back in. But as you know, Africa has the largest population on the planet. It also has the youngest population on the planet. You know, Africa's greatest asset indeed lies in its youth, and so preparation of this large youth population for employment is of critical importance to Africa's future. I agree with you that with something like 12 million Africans entering the job market each year for about the next decade, the skills and knowledge that they have has to be meaningful and has to contribute to the development of society through you know, through very practical measures. So what you're talking about really breaks down on a few different elements. One relates to the skills gap. So students need appropriate skills that match the industrial and other needs, the development needs in their region. As well, students need to be, and this is where Lancaster excels and differentiates from other universities. They need to be problem solvers. They need to be critical thinkers. They need to be entrepreneurial. They need to be able to venture out on their own. They need to be able to create opportunities for others. And so, and this is where Malcolm will come in. Much of our curriculum, or the methodology through which we teach, I should say rather, is I think a bit distinct from what you might be used to, and it focuses on developing those key dimensions of students. And that's why they become successful as graduates. We're not simply, as Malcolm said in his presentation, focused on preparing students to write an exam. You know, that's the past. That's not what we're about. What we're doing is attempting to, and succeeding, I might add, at developing individuals who can be productive members of society, and you know, through the development of certain, I don't want to call them hard skills, but soft skills. This is where our graduates really differentiate. So Malcolm, I think, you know, with those themes, or expanding on that, perhaps explain a bit about how we do differentiate ourselves from others in respect of our learning and teaching.
Absolutely right. And if I can risk of repeating what I said earlier on, traditional universities teach in what's known as a didactic fashion. In other words, the emphasis is very much on knowledge, more knowledge, and more knowledge. It's about learning facts, it's about learning figures, dates, places. Where we differ is that it's based upon understanding. And understanding is only achieved through a certain approach. And those approaches are things like critical thinking and problem solving. And that is embedded into every single program within our curriculum. Every program has that. So every student who undertakes a program at the University of Lancaster acquires critical thinking. They acquire problem solving skills. They acquire innovation. And as a result of that, many of those skills that they've acquired also underpin entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship is embedded into all of our programs. So I take the point you're making. Sometimes universities can act like factories, simply churning out accountants, doctors, engineers, and there are no jobs for these people. But what we do at the Lancaster University Ghana is we give people what are known as future-proof skills. In other words, these are skills that enable our students to adapt and continue to grow. I talked about lifelong learning.
Yeah.
The skills we give them enable them to continue adapting and growing. And many of our students actually do set up their own businesses, and they are contributing positively to the economies across West Africa. So our curriculum is all about individuality, it's all about being future-proof, it's all about entrepreneurship.
I have several questions. I'm going to we'll try to run through them all quickly. We have, so Letitia has several questions, but let me read her first one. She's asking again if Lancaster University in Ghana is actually owned by Lancaster University in the UK, or is Lancaster University Ghana owned by a separate company which Lancaster University UK has sold use of its.
Yeah, if I can just tackle that for a minute, because I've been involved with the partnership right from day one. So, and I'm, as I said, the CEO of Transnational Academic Group. What we do is we partner with world-renowned, top-ranked universities, and then on the basis of that partnership, bring them into emerging markets. And so, for example, we have a partnership with Curtin University, which is an Australian university in Dubai. And we have a partnership with Lancaster University here. So although we, you know, you use the word own, let's put it that way. We've made the investment into the campus here, and we operate the campus. All aspects of on the academic side, including critically the academic quality assurance and the degree, are from Lancaster University. And so it's on the basis of that partnership where we bring together the strengths of each institutions that we're able to establish a campus of such high quality here in Ghana. You know, so it's, you have to view it as a partnership as opposed to who owns what. It's a partnership in the truest form.
If I may just add to that, two points. Yes, it is absolutely a partnership. But if you started a degree program at Lancaster University, there's no reason why you cannot transfer to Lancaster University UK, assuming you have met the academic requirements. Equally, if you graduate from Lancaster University Ghana, you will get a certificate that is identical to those that are issued for graduates from Lancaster University UK. There is nothing on our certificate that says Ghana. There's nothing on our certificate that says partner of Lancaster University.
Mm-hmm.
You get a Lancaster University certificate.
Yeah, and students can transfer back and forth. It's that seamless. So it's,
and in fact,
you know, if I can, I mean, we're all I think you know, we have you know, experience in international affairs, and you know, we work in various industries. But the real truth of it is that some of these most top-ranked universities, and Lancaster is one, they would find it very, very difficult to set up a campus of their own in Ghana or in Africa without having partners such as ourselves. And so, you know, what we do is we take on, if you will, all of the investment risk and operational risk, and make sure that the partnership has a clear quality focus, particularly an AQA focus, so that the quality that the university delivers at home can be delivered here. And it's as simple as that. You won't find universities establishing here otherwise. Universities like that, I should say. Yeah.
Okay. So Chris, I think you answered the question. So Mercy had a question. Sorry, I joined in late, but has the university got any affiliations? So I'm sure that's what you touched on, right? About the affiliations.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure that I understand entirely what you mean by affiliations. We have a number of, well, we're held to all of the regulatory bodies that that a university would be held to here and in the UK. We do have other third-party accreditations, if that's what you're talking about. So, for example, with in accounting, ACCA, there are other third-party accreditations. Sometimes here, perhaps people are using the word affiliation in the sense of private universities in Ghana. When they become established as a homegrown campus, they have to affiliate with one of the chartered universities in Ghana, you know, and eventually they after some period of a mentor-mentee relationship, then they receive a charter of their own if they meet certain criteria. So if you mean affiliation in that way, no, but you can look at it as that affiliation perhaps being Lancaster University in Ghana. You see, Lancaster University is a self-accrediting university in its own right, and on that basis, as it has established here, it is a chartered university in the UK, and so on that basis, it's able to operate under the regulatory regime in Ghana. So I'm sorry if I didn't get quite the question. Perhaps that's what you meant by affiliation, or perhaps you meant you know, other associations with third-party accrediting bodies.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So I'll just read the last question, and what we can do is we can just type in the answers in the chat icon whilst we give our closing remarks. Chris, would you be fine with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, about just a few more. So again, Letitia is asking, she's saying there are studies that suggest that the dropout rate from online courses is much higher than the dropout rate for live face-to-face courses. How do your statistics fare in this regard for Lancaster University?
Yeah, can I just address that again quickly, please? And I think there's a bit of an incorrect context here. So we're not, again, I say, we're not an online university. We have been forced, like all other universities, to go online since March. So I can speak only in that time frame, and I can say that how we measure, you know, we don't look at dropout, we look at retention or progression. So looking at the flip side of it, since we've had to go online to protect our students and to abide by the government requirements, our retention rates have been as high as they have been historically. And so we have not lost students because we've now started delivering online during this coronavirus period. And just to clarify again, the online is, you know, it's associated with the time that all universities are required to be closed here and to face-to-face teaching in Ghana, and it will shift back to a more traditional mode of delivery after that. So sorry if I can't answer directly because I'm not, I don't represent an online university, so I don't know what their retention rates are like. But from our experience since March, we've had absolutely normal retention rates. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're high. Yeah. Malcolm, anything to add to that?
Well, I would certainly endorse everything that Chris has just said. We are not an online university. We are a building, and you're welcome to come and view the building, but you're not allowed to go in at this moment in time because of government restrictions.
Yeah.
The other thing I would also say is that, yes, since March, we have had to deliver our programs remotely, and we've also had to undertake remote assessment. But because we were already preparing for this in advance, and because of the nature of our programs, and because of the infrastructure that we share with Lancaster University, we were very well prepared for this. And as a result of that, the attendance at our online lectures was as good, if not better, than it was prior to COVID-19. And the attendance at our exams and our assessments, again, we've looked at the data, it's comparable to what last year's attendance was. So there's been no drop off in terms of participating in lectures. There's been no drop off in terms of participating in the assessment process.
Okay. Okay. And so the very last question, do you offer scholarships to students, and what financing options are available for parents and students?
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, very quickly, the answer is yes, we do. We have a number of options available. And if you'd like to contact one of our admissions team at the university, they could list all of them, because I will be the first one to admit I don't remember all of them. And I would hate to give you an answer that misses out some of the scholarships.
Yeah, I'll just add, there are a number of different scholarships and bursaries, and even financial plans. So, we recognize that people need flexibility in accessing the programs that we have, and as well are looking for scholarships. Some of them are based on their academic merit or performance. Others are based on perhaps financial need or other criteria. So as Malcolm said, absolutely contact the office, and they can go through in detail the scholarships and bursaries and financial plans that are available.
And I just have to add, especially our member companies, if they want to contact Lancaster University for these kinds of offers, etc., we are happy to share that with you as well. We'll be promoting some of their offers on our platforms, so please be on the lookout. At this juncture, I would invite my colleague Margaret to give the closing remarks, and we can move into our after party event. So, Margaret, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Malcolm McIver. Thank you very much, Chris Pilgrim. This session was worth the while. I'm sure everybody enjoyed it. It was very, very interactive, very interesting. And then I'm sure everybody's question has been answered. And then hopefully you get a lot of students from here coming to Lancaster University. Anybody or any other company that's not a member of the UKGCC hoping to join the UKGCC so that they can have the platform to share like Lancaster just did, you can always contact me via email or via telephone. I'll drop my details here. Not to talk too much, we'll go straight into our after party with DJ Black. DJ Black has been lurking around ready to start. So we'll dive just in right now, and then you can grab a drink of your choice and enjoy. Go on, Chris.
I'm sorry, but could I just add one more thing really quickly? And I think it would be of value to folks here, and I'll be very, very quick. Look, we do have the ability to work with various companies to develop bespoke continuing professional development programs for them as well. So speak with Malcolm or I, and we'd be happy to have a chat with you on that. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That'd be very helpful. Yeah, that'd be very helpful for our member companies as well. So yeah, we'll reach out for that.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you very much. So just to add to Margaret's point, so this session is actually, the second part of this session is optional. If Professor Malcolm, McIver, and Chris, you have to leave, that's fine. But we entreat all of you to hang around and enjoy this session with us.
Enjoy
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we found it very engaging as well, and appreciate the questions, and look forward to continuing sessions on this platform. I think you're doing great work here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the true meaning of work and happiness.
Sorry, Malcolm, again?
I said, I suspect this is what everybody tuned in for, was for DJ Black. So
exactly. Next time you're presenting, Malcolm will put some headphones on you and some nice flash behind you. Right?
yeah. I'm not sure your audience would appreciate my music.
I don't want to. Look, I'm about to reveal a closely guarded personal secret of myself, and then I'll get out of the way of DJ Black. I actually paid my way through university as a DJ. I started in junior high school as a DJ doing sock hops on Friday afternoon right up until I graduated from university. But those were in different days, very different than what you would call a DJ today. Anyway, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. The true meaning of work and happiness. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
I got a girl, she a London thing. Sugar daddy. I got a girl, she a London thing. She wanna roll and smoke one thing. I want to give her a diamond ring, but she say other girls like my thing. She make my heart beat say like say boom boom. Next time you're gonna take you to bloom bloom. When we done we go home and boom boom. Hop on the wagon, baby say vroom vroom. Say cheese, take a picture. Shake a post, make a see, take a picture. Say cheese, take a picture. Shake a post, make a see, take a picture. Say cheese, take a picture. Shake a post, make a see, take a picture. Say cheese, take a picture. Shake a post, make a see, take a picture. I rap on your thing, but we move. Even you better catch my cruise. You know the vibes, you know the groove. Boom, you wanna miss my boom. She make my heart beat say like say boom boom. Next time you're gonna take you to bloom bloom. When we done we go home and boom boom. Hop on the wagon, baby say vroom vroom. Say cheese, take a picture. Shake a post, make a see, take a picture. Say cheese, take a picture. Shake a post, make a see, take a picture. Say cheese, take a picture. Shake a post, make a see, take a picture. Say cheese, take a picture. Shake a post, make a see, take a picture. I got a girl, she a London thing. She wanna roll and smoke one thing. I want to give her a diamond ring, but she say other girls like my thing. She make my heart beat say like say boom boom. Next time you're gonna say cheese, take a picture.
You can hear me loud and clear. Welcome to the after party, or DJ Black in Effect. I hope you had fun with your discussions, but it's time for a party. Wherever you are watching us, let's have fun, have fun, have fun.
I see they pray for the money, die for the money. Don't forget to banana. I see they shake your back for the banana. They rise up the man, them banana. Buy one, get one free for the anana. Oh, I. Hey, Billy man, we are the girl and sugar. Sometime and the girl and banana. We are the girl and sugar. Sometime and the girl and banana. We are the girl and sugar. Sometime and the girl and banana. The girl and sugar. Sometime and the girl and banana. Oh, yeah, West Side. West End, hey, yeah, West End.
Here we go. That's right. Check it out, son. So I got my first request there. Even before the party started, you want me to play Jerusalem. So all my people on Zoom right now. Yeah. Bounce, 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 bounce. Let's go. Where we going?
Jerusalem, Ikayalami, Ilondoloze, Uhambena,
That's right, that's right. That's right. Shout out to all Lancaster EMBA cohort 4 members. Big up. Hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Here we go. This is Ghana, baby. What's up, my people in the UK? That's right. DJ Black holding it down for real. UK GCC. How you guys feeling? I'm taking requests, y'all. Party still goes on. After party. After party. Yeah. I like that sprite. Oh, girl, you. Let me see your hands up in the air right now. Put your hands up like that. Hey, 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 hey. Are you ready to do the coupe dance? 1, 2, 3, let's do it. Coupe, hey, coupe. Money coupe. 0 to 100. And they go 0 to 100. Charlie, let me tell you something. When I jump on the drum thing, when the flow get the jumping, when the track get the bumping, can they mess up your country? And the MC hammer through this one Let's go. Me money day.
Hey, my money one like coupe. Money two like coupe. Money three like coupe. Money four like
That's right.
coupe. Money coupe.
This song is for the fine boys, you know. And if you're a fine girl, I got something to tell you. Listen.
Baby,
Hey.
Say that you go drop me your number. Cause I know the feeling, show the pop, but they wonder. Hey, now your back a boom boom, you the conquer. Look, see, I know they get no younger. So I don't want friendship where be longer. Weak me today, tomorrow I will be stronger. Girl, I don't want chop, you be my hunger. I see if I'm playing with you, but the words I'm saying is true. Woman, I know they tell no lie. Way I know they play my love is for you. I be you, go be my girl. Way I go surely take you there. How you they rock my world? That they make her they ask you for. Yes, you know. You go be my girl. Way I go surely take you there. How you they rock my world? Now they make her they ask you for. Just allow me to kiss your hand. Be your man, you know I understand. Yeah. Allow me to kiss your hand. Be your man, you know I understand.
If you know the words, sing it.
All I wanna hear you say I do. Make you know the fear every day by you. Girl, to the end of time is true. I be you, go be my boo. All I wanna hear you say I do. Make you know the fear every day by you. Girl, to the end of time is true. I be you, go be my boo. Make me do like the towels. Want to be like Stevie Wonder. You know I'm like thunder.
Get a cold drink. I'm joining the party.
Hey, you see where I'm from?
See, I'm sipping on a little something. Hey, what are you drinking? Quite nice. Where we going, baby?
I'm rocking with RTB from Ghana. I tell you, we did for time. They say WC a hammer. When they say we are WC, I'm on the same bumper to bumper.
Hey.
Yes, I be the number one, number dagger. I can see that swagger.
If I were you, I'll connect my speaker to a big speaker. See? That's right. Hey. There we go. Shout out Frank Champion. I see you, Frank. Miss Minka. Great services. Big up. Shout out to you, Ruby Golo. Ajoba.
I'll kiss you, double dare me. I'll kiss you, so baby, just allow me to kiss your hand. Be your man, you know I understand. Yeah, allow me to kiss your hand. Be your man, you know I understand. I wanna hold somebody. I wanna let somebody hold it for my hand. I'm gonna hold it for my hand. Yo. It's nothing for all you wanna. Yeah.
That's right. Hey, here we go. Sing along.
Before you start to vex for me, don't begin to shake body. Just people they push say, direct, jubilate. I beg you, make you no worry. Whether you get or you no get money, cause people go for play. No, but yeah, you gonna pay. No. Nobody fix my phone. I'm on your life.
Yo. That's right. You ready to bounce? Let's check it now. All right. Let's bounce. Bounce. If you're sitting on your chair right now, this is not a good time to do that because you have to shake it slowly. Shake it. Let's go.
The way you whine, make me go down low. The way you whine, make me go down low. All my ladies, shake up your bum bum. The girl them shake up your bum bum. The girl them shake up your bum bum. You know where you come from? Oh no. This girl she a calling my phone. Yeah. Oh no. This girl she don't let me go. Every day she follow me. for Twitter. Next thing she want me guy finger. She want me to answer. Every night she want me guy ringer. Baby, shake up your bam bam. Shake up your bam bam. Yeah, bam bam. Ladies, shake up your bam bam. Bam bam. Bam bam. Yeah. The way she whine. Girl, you must up my mind. The way you roll your behind. If you make a man to go blind. Girl, me love you topito. The way she my music is sweet. The way she dance it. Everybody them I love it. Yeah. She got your bam bam. Everybody rap a bam bam. Yes. She got your bam bam. Bam bam. Bam bam. See you. I baby go down low, down low. Oh no no no, I baby go down low, down low.
Shout out to MIT. Shout out to you, Jacob. Let's go, Idris, big up. That's right. I'm at Rascovi joining us. NC, what up? Let's go, let's go. Hello, Ruby. Let's go.
I'm still on the bam bam.
Oh,
you got to shake up your bam bam.
You ready to shake it? You ready to break your waist right now? You ready to break your waist? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, let's go. Oh my God, DJ Black. Are you doing this to me? Ladies, check it. Hello, Maggie. I see you, Margaret. Hello, 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 hello. Let's go. Break it. I hear there's a John Cena dance. You know how to do that dance? Hey, 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 hey,
rough like John Cena. Some man I get rough like John Cena. We used to be cool when I used to come through. Now you wanna act like John Cena.
All right, hey. We're gonna start the weekend early. One of the hottest songs in Ghana right now. Listen. I don't know what it means, but we like it. Here we go. Right. Hey, hey, hey. Here we go, here we go. After party, baby. Let's go.
Pray, go better. Pray, go better. Solema, he go better. Solema. Tede mundo godo, dan tede. Ambaga dum digi gen tede. Sagadum bodo din tede. Mampara na madaba bum bodo. Sompa prpa. Bottom, bottom, giddy, stop it,
Sugar daddy. Oh yeah, how you feeling? Hey, that's right. And when your camera goes off, I know you are dancing. Let's go.
Oh my, oh my, oh my. Yeah. I want to see you shaky for that. Yeah. Sing for you like a baby. Give you loving, Bokobi. Oh baby, yo, Banamero. Pagoma Suadio. I don't want to call me the NTR. Yo, Banamero. Would you spend back, yo? Yeah, all day I no go play. Oh, darling, you give me joy. kill you with enjoyment.
Yeah, this is enjoyment.
Enjoyment, 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 enjoyment.
That's right. Gonna see my white teeth, right?
Enjoyment, 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 enjoyment. Murder is a murder. If you touch my baby, then it's a murder. Yeah. Murder, I will murder. If you touch my baby, then it's a murder. Oh,
that's right. Shout out to the executive director, Ajoba Chiama of the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce, holding it down.
Yeah, all day I no go darling, you give me joy. Nobody did like you, my lover. You give me joy. I go kill you with enjoyment, 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 enjoyment. I go kill you with enjoyment, 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 I'm losing for a lot of girls and fine, but them no fine pass. Them want do the do, but them no do pass. They can't just them high, but them no high pass. You make a one trip and go, you know you would never go. Nah. Feel that?
It's DJ Black After Party, baby. Let's go. Swing it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's DJ Black. Forget the hit with the go gaga. But tell him mommy to blue gaga. Look nation to the who Ghana. Thank God it's Friday with the blue dog. Anything we do, they say with the force. I'm kind of DJ Black. Trouble every day, can live with the cause. No matter how you hate me, we do.
Here we go.
Enemies.
What?
Enemies. You want to put me down, but now can't see me. Enemies. You want to put me down, but now can't see me.
That's right. I hope we have learners on our next record series. Like this is the After Party. Grab your drink, y'all. Hey. Hey. We're going in. We're going in. Check it out. Oh, yeah. This is Ghana. Listen. What's this saying? Okay. Uh-huh.
What's your baby? Now I didn't number. Now who do you okay, I'm go. So maybe I was a day. I said, when this was what did you remember now about that? Very well. I said, away, mommy, miss it, watching. Why would you live in no? That's a wood janice have no. The way you would the way no bad, the way you would the way no bad, yo, what's up, man? No peace about Tina. I say, young dogger, that's a bad guy, so mama. So when you so back to the beginning, and yet you move, I can't say, that's a water.
Give us some money, no be problem. Man is on the block. All right, I'm back again. You know what time it is. Straight up. All right, what's up? Listen. About him and the him, and Missy Ma, Michelle, she been on the frozen wind, you know. I come up and I take it in the young Bimbuna, and with Simbaris in the region, you ma, oh, I walk. What did I do? Good, ma, what it ma, Tamafan, Tibudima, then my Papa dear, the Papa Suprapoma. I guess I make you from the Podiasoma. I shall win up about the young Conqua, just some five perfume wise, one genua, but Tamabuano, Philippine Timamua, one on Jamabakari, hey, Billy Patakwa, as I see that they be a one over near my papa, Via, Musiamu, to Fiaka, as on to be a Sakadi, the Yamia, but the rope came out 35 with the Bianca, which was a Janama. You want to do here.
That's right.
The way today be my speckle. This girl today kills me.
No problem.
When I see about the mess, so anyone they do me so. She dey mash up my head, oh. Some girl they go they make her go below. Hey, the way today be my speckle. This girl doesn't feel down.
Let's do the skeleton dance. Hey. Like at this. Like at that. Like at this. Like at that. Oh. Hey. Hey. Here we go. Put your hand on your waist. Right hand out. Like, do like that. Do like this. Put your hand on your waist. Yeah. Let's go. Hey.
When you see me around, they just got to like we have to go. We have to go. We are not figured out.
Check it out. Here we go. Like I did. Like I did. Like I did. Like I did. Oh yeah. That's right. Here we go.
Otonono,
Listen.
Sister Kus.
What's the saying?
Mami Sadiano. Sadiano. What the Mami Sadiano? Sister Kus. Mami Wadiano. Wadiano. What the Mami Wadiano? Yeah, Roro. Yeah, Roro. Roro. Yeah, Roro. Roro. Yeah, Roro. Roro. Yeah, Roro. I say yeah, Roro. 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 I'm Roro.
Shut up, I
better be
I can't go Kuleba. Scat, no more guy, you move like a killable. Shut up, I job is take my focus more than who tell them. What about you?
What you say? What you say? What's up, Margaret? Relax, right? Here we go. Shatawale has made it big this year. And it's amazing, like this one.
Only the king, you know it. King already, you know it. Top everything,
hey, Joe Bar.
King already, you know it.
Wait.
My body so king body. Body gon' shine, bling, bling
that's
body.
Right.
Calling on the shots, ring body. Crown on your head, got a king
Let's
body.
go.
Only the king, you know it. King already, my baby, you know it.
That's right.
Top everything, you know it.
What?
King already, you know it. Shine already. It's time already. Shine already. It's time already. Shine already. It's time already. Shine already. It's time already.
Can't stop it, say no. Where have you said no. Can't stop it, say go. Bubble up and watch it go. We roll like it. Everybody on the conga, yeah. Every king be stronger, yeah. King they rule them longer, yeah. Remember who you are. Real king always be no. Give every better. I say the people my love.
What you say?
Sing my ready, I say you sing my ready. You line the ready, I say you line the ready. Only you got the remedy, I say you got the remedy. Shine your body,
Long live the king, you know it. King already, you know it. Top everything, you know it. King already, you know it. My body, soul, got a king body. Body gon' shine, bling, bling body. Calling all the shots, ring, ring body. Crown on your head, got a king body.
Nigga see then did them a just see. Cause we just need it. Yeah. Be like everybody they want to be fit. Hey, let me kitty jigga for mellow. Do one fast, do one slow, do one solo. You for I say you only live once. Yellow. For the boys, hey, for the girls. Guess what they no say oh well. For the man them, hey, for the young girls. For the ones in love but they can't tell. Yeah. So put your hands in the air. Like you really don't care. Yeah. To the left, to the right. Oh, you go there, you get. Do the dance, do the dance. Everybody make us see you do the dance. Do the dance, do the dance. Everybody make us see you do the dance. Do the dance, do the dance. Everybody make us see you do the dance. Do the dance, do the dance. Everybody make us see you do the dance. Oh, that's better. Steriba, steriba. It's so tired of it. I promise I wanna let it be cool. 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 Hey, oh na no, oh na no, oh na no.
Oh, now it means raise your leg, but we do it with our hands.
Oh na no, oh na no, oh na no.
Make we scatter this place tonight. Dance and sweat till lights in a fight. We must settle this thing tonight. Yeah. Come, let's just catch some feelings for night. Yeah.
Here we go.
Tell me, say, make up there. No,
hey.
It's time for to do like so. Hello. Riding the joke, this song. This loving, no be chop and go. Hey, but because of you, I get to go strong.
All over.
This feeling got me falling all over.
What?
Get out of something they give me for body, all over. I make me spend this money, all over. Because of you, I get to go strong, all over. This feeling got me falling all over. Get out of something they give me for body, all over. I make you spend this money, all over. This one like Italy and Romeo. Original Bungalow Popo. Say na me when you make them shut go. Love me gentle, love me tender. Yeah. And if you tell me, say make up there. Hello. Don't always time but to do like so. Hello. Body me joke, this so. This loving, no be chop and go. But because of you, I get to go strong. All over. This feeling got me falling all over. Get out of something they do me for body, all over. I make you spend this money, all over. Because of you,
I'm falling in love with you. I've made up my mind for you. No matter the way that I deal with you. I'm falling in love with you. I've made up my mind for you. No matter the way that I deal with you. Come on, tell me wrong. You want to call him mama, baby, you and I love you,
No matter the way that I with you.
One time. Go low. Go low. Ajoba, I seen your request. Big up yourself. Miss Ajoba Chiama. You want the shutter song? Oh. I want to see your camera on. I want to see your camera on. Hey. And we say, I think you got to do your hands like this.
Party a girl we a call over, not just Jamaica, me say all over. The girl them a say SM, them a real soldier, and a we them a broad over. I see Da Vinci roll out of Ghana. I grade with a smoke on the corner. King of Africa, we a big girl of alpha. Wanna out this boy go home to mama, we a bullshit. We the girl them around, we party all night long, we say bullshit. Are we the girl them want? Are we the girl them want? We say bullshit. Are we the girl them want? Are we give them what them want? We say bullshit. So tell what you could say for that. Are we the girl them want? Everything you can tick. Are we something? Don't know me now. The girl way up, we don't wanna wear your life too. Or the black queen. I don't really have the tight tea party. Turn off your can of myopia. Me girl them reach so me know them no joke ya. Me love how them wine, know them body design. Girl, you a feel me kind. The girl roll out when a party time. We are way too much, but we don't watch the time. We are pushers. We the girl them around. We party all night long. Me say bullshit. Are we the girl them want? Are we the girl them want? Me say bullshit. Are we the girl them want? Are we give them what them want? Me say bullshit. So tell what you could say for that. Are we the girl them want? Bullshit. We the girl them around. We party all night long. Me say bullshit. Are we the girl them want? Oh no.
That's right. I hope you enjoyed the after party.
Just about him, I will get media. I hold my team with the Uti to the Swa. On a board, and I'm a Pia. They can't support me song. In lobby care, can be back home. They can't support me go down. They draw me against my food.
You can't taste my life. Ever since she came out, I never felt this way before. Yeah, I'm looking for a boy, daddy. See, baby, I can hold you. I keep your heart, never let you go. Come on, bye, baby, yeah. Oh, bye, baby, yeah. I never think that I could fall in love like this again. Oh, bye, baby, yeah. Bye, baby, oh.
What else up in the bomb, baby? Yeah. I can see my shorty from the driveway. Up at the pedal, so what can I say? Anything we do it our way. How many times with a kiss? All day. When I jam in the foot like a shiesty. Me when I me put do a baby. Or coming home from nothing up to the payday. Could they do the JJ? See, girl, me a one drop kiss. Can you give it to me like this? You push up and I forget the prices. So we tell me how much I'm than the ISIS. No matter what, maybe I never so that your crisis. But if you wanna do the right thing, make I put a ring on it, I me forget the strike game. Big cars, more money, come sugar my thing. Listen to the song I sing, but it be baby.
I hope you enjoy the after party, y'all. Shout out to everybody in the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce office. Respect. And like I always say, y'all, let's keep on putting a bright smile on somebody's face.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's all, folks.
Thank you, DJ Black. That was an exciting session. We thank you all for staying on to enjoy our after party. We hope it was worth it. And so on behalf of, again, my executive director and the entire team at UKGCC, we wish to express our gratitude to you all for joining in. A special thanks to Lancaster University. It was an exciting conversation, and we hope you come back for more. And to all our member companies that joined, we can't do it without you. Thank you so much. And we appreciate you all. And for those who want to join, please do join us. So stay tuned next time for our virtual networking series. Bye.